The great Tony Ferguson. What happened? How did this happen? It must have just happened all of a sudden, right? Like, how did the great downfall happen? Well, there's been a million videos about this topic, but, there's just things people don't get right about the Tony Ferguson situation. Let me start with the number one problem that Tony Ferguson had. He had negative fundamentals in all aspects of his game. He had weak takedown defense. He would constantly give up position. He never learned how to protect his chin, and his entire game completely relied on his unorthodox striking technique. The only reason he was able to have the style he had was because of his physical gifts, his athleticism, his speed, strength, and his toughness. But without fundamentals, when you eventually reach the age of like 35 plus, you will completely fall apart. And here's the thing. People like to blame a lot of things. They blame the Justin Gaethje fight, saying that's the only reason Tony Ferguson had his great big downfall. But that's just a small part of the whole puzzle. Tony Ferguson is also a very erratic person. Like, I'm sure he has a little bit of CTE. I mean, all fighters do. But even before that, he already was dealing with mental illness. But, in some regards, his mindset has helped him because he's super mentally tough. And he's been able to beat and break people just by being tougher than them. But that toughness was also a major factor that destroyed him because Tony Ferguson would overtrain like crazy. And he wouldn't give himself enough time to properly recover. A great example is when Tony Ferguson tripped over that wire and he completely blew out his knee. He came back very, very quickly after that injury, and it affected him. His movement was never the same, the way he defended takedowns was never the same, nothing was ever the same after he blew out his knee. But the thing is, these problems that Tony Ferguson had could have been fixed. If he would have identified the fact that he was declining and his physical abilities were just not there anymore, he should have completely focused, laser focused in on his fundamentals. And the most egregious, terrible instance of this was when Tony Ferguson decided to train with David Goggins. And now people are a little bit better on it, but dude, back then, it was ridiculous. Everyone was like, "Duh, bro, David Goggins is gonna freaking transform Tony Ferguson." And yeah, he did transform him. He made him even worse. It's literally disturbing to watch the footage of Tony Ferguson. He's throwing up. He's barely able to do the workout. This guy's already mentally tough enough. What he needed was more skill development. And I know there's going to be guys saying, well, you can't develop skills later in age. Shut up. Shut up. Look at Glover Teixeira. He worked on his fundamentals, and he was able to go on a pretty solid run in his late 30s, early 40s. So it's not impossible to continue your skill development even in, old age for MMA. And the thing is that the David Goggins thing, it really blew my mind because Tony Ferguson could have pretty easily beaten Paddy Pimblett. That's the truth. Paddy Pimblett leaves himself wide open to get cracked with shots. And if Tony Ferguson just worked on his takedown defense, worked on his boxing, he would have knocked out Paddy Pimblett. That's not even a joke. Another thing he should have done is give his body a rest. Get injected with stem cells, go into hyperbaric oxygen chambers, and, get that secret recovery juice that Connor was using. But number one, stop overtraining all the time. And if anything, recently, in recent times, Tony Ferguson's skill set has actually gotten worse. Like, when's the last time you saw him throw an elbow? He was famous for his insane elbows, but he never throws them anymore. Even when he's in range, he never throws them. And look, here's the thing. Even if Tony Ferguson did my entire longevity recovery plan, I'm not saying he'd still be an elite lightweight. I don't think he'd even be ranked. I mean, maybe he'd be in like the 15, 14 ranked range, but he would be able to beat these guys like Bobby Green, Paddy Pimblett, Nate Diaz. He'd be able to beat these low ranked guys, which is honestly what we want to see from Tony. Look, not everyone can be elite forever, and it makes sense, all right? But Tony Ferguson could still be winning fights, still be making money, and he wouldn't have such a, embarrassingly bad end of his career. Because here's the facts, guys. I know Tony Ferguson went on the huge 12-fight win streak, but honestly, in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't matter. Look at BJ Penn. Look, he had a great career early on, but no one cares because of how the end of his career was. these fights at the end of your career, going on these big losing streaks, they affect your entire legacy. And look, even though Tony Ferguson things look bad right now, I mean, there's still potential. He can still make a mini comeback, as in he can win like a fight or two. But, you know, that's not gonna happen because the UFC decided to match him up with Michael Chiesa at 170 pounds instead of Nick Diaz, who's fighting on the same card. All right, I gotta chill out. I'm about to crash out over that. That is, oh, okay, I gotta chill. Okay. Look, we all know Tony Ferguson and Nick Diaz, they should be fighting. Hopefully, you know, if things go right, maybe, you know, someone misses weight, we can make that fight happen. But, oh, that's such terrible matchmaking. Michael Chiesa? What a random bum. Why Michael Chiesa? I just don't get it, guys. I don't get it. And then Nick Diaz is fighting Vicente Luque. I made a whole video about that. That's ridiculous. But I need to end this video. I'm about to crash out super hard. Whenever I think about Tony Ferguson, I crash out because I was the biggest fan ever. And seeing his downfall has been soul crushing. Like, when I had my second divorce and I lost custody of my kids, that sucked. I was like, oh, well, yeah, I kind of want to see them again. I don't really care. But seeing Tony Ferguson's downfall, that hurt. That actually physically hurts me to think about. Like, I can't even stand it. So, I mean, I'm gonna end the video right here, guys. If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, and subscribe to the LSFC YouTube channel. Thank you so much for watching this video. But if you really like the LSFC, you can do something big for me, for us. Please consider becoming an LSFC channel member and get access to exclusive channel perks and our LSFC grappling resources, which is great for beginners and intermediates in jiu-jitsu and wrestling, any grappling combat sport. And we personally use this for our training sessions because the LSFC doesn't just make UFC commentary videos. We're also a MMA club, MMA gym, and we compete at jiu-jitsu tournaments. Check out our highlights in our YouTube shorts. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Goodbye.